What's going on? SEVelocity back with a new week of content, some more football and basketball to talk about, mainly football. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone had a good week of some football. Still some more to come Sunday night and then Monday night. But other than that, I think everything's pretty much done. You want to say anything to the people, Sean?
Yeah, what's up, everyone? Another week of me essentially taking football 101 by very rigorously trying to learn the game some more. But I have been actively watching. I am actually getting more into it. Like saw some close games, like watching like the Falcons and Buccaneers one. So one we're definitely going to talk about for sure. But on top of that, I also want to thank those fans out there who decided to participate in our basketball fantasy as well. This should be really fun. So let's get into it.
I'm proud of you, by the way.
You're proud of me?
Yeah, for football.
Oh, well, don't be proud yet. Let's see if I really. I mean, it's one thing to to watch it for a while, but some people watch
Keep up
certain
with it.
sports for a while, but still they in a way don't know anything in terms of their takes. I don't know where I'll get with football.
We'll see. You'll get there. You're a hero for that. All right. So, um, but I guess we'll start with the games that are um, most important to, I guess, our loyalties here. So I'm going to start with the Jets and Patriots because I am a Jets fan. Absolute brutal game. So this is Mac Jones, the quarterback for the Patriots, and Zach Wilson, both rookies this year. Both of them started this year 0-1. So this was guaranteed to be one of the rookies' first wins. Um, Zach Wilson, the second pick. Mac Jones was the 15th overall pick. Um, Straight up though, Mac Jones played better. I think this was a really defensive game. Zach Wilson threw four interceptions, three of them in the first half. Absolute awful game. He threw for 210 yards. He started to figure it out towards the end of the game, but it was kind of too little, too late. Offensive line played better. The running game did way better. We finally got over 100 rushing yards. And the defense played spectacular. They were getting to the quarterback a lot. He was sacked, I believe, three or four times, um, but it just wasn't enough because quarterback play was not good. Everyone else played pretty well. Jets lost 25-6. Mac Jones got his first win. He played very well. He's a very accurate passer. He likes to throw more short passes, but also be more consistent and not take too many risks, and it paid off for him today. So he made a lot of smart decisions. Overall, pretty rough game. There wasn't a lot to talk about. The Patriots receivers played pretty well. Some a couple sloppy plays by the Jets, but nothing too out of line. Defense looked really good, something to be hopeful for. Jets play the Broncos next week. That might be another L with the way we're playing, but it's a learning process. Your quarterback needs to get used to everything, and hopefully by the end of the year, he's familiar with the whole system.
Wow, New York just sure knows how to hold its L's, huh?
Yeah, at least we have the Yankees, right? No matter how bad they are for the rest of the next 10 to 20 years, we could still say we have 27 World Series wins. So,
That's
um,
true.
moving on to, we'll talk about the Eagles and 49ers, I guess, first. This was an interesting game. This was the first game that, well, last week we had Trey Lance play a little bit. The 49ers drafted a quarterback with the third pick. Um,
Hmm.
and they insisted that they were going to go with Jimmy Garoppolo because Jimmy Garoppolo is not a bad quarterback. So they wanted to have the rookie quarterback learn under him for a little bit and then kind of get used to the system before starting him. So the first game, Trey Lance played a couple snaps and he threw a touchdown, I believe. This game, I don't think he really played at all. Jimmy Garoppolo played all right. He did his consistent game manager thing. He threw for under 200 yards, but he kept care of the ball. He didn't fumble. Uh, or he fumbled, he didn't lose it, and he didn't throw any interceptions, which is what they want from him. They want to rely on their defense. They don't want to give the ball away. Um, Debo Samuel played well. Brandon Ayuk still not getting attention. Brandon Ayuk was a rookie receiver last year, played super well, and now he fell to the bottom of the depth chart, and he's not getting a lot of playing time, so that's interesting to follow. Um, Running backs played okay. It was backup running back because Raheem Mostert got hurt. Jalen Hurts played great last week. This week, not as good. He passed around 50% completion percentage for 190 yards. But he was also the leading rusher too, so he didn't get a lot of help. Um, and then the defense played surprisingly well for the Eagles, which they're not known to have a good defense. But it was a pretty good game overall. It was still close. I think the Eagles were expected to lose, so losing by 6 wasn't really the worst thing in the world. I know you got to watch some of that game. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I watched the whole game, in fact, and I was just disappointed. My so-called Eagles, they look like a bunch of fish today, or better yet, better yet, crabs. You know, those sea creatures that crawl at the bottom of the sea on the sea floor. I did not see anyone take flight. I witnessed. It's funny. Remember in the past, I asked you how often do you see like kicks, any kick, like whether it's puns or like field goal attempt get blocked. I witnessed my first one today against the Eagles.
um,
Uh, it was just terrible. They could not get a single touchdown. They only scored once in the first quarter. Early on in the game, they got a field goal, and so 3 points. After that, not another point on the board.
it was a very defensive game. There was 9 punts, 4 on the Eagles and 5 on the 49ers side. So you got to see a lot of kicking. You saw 3 different field goals kicked. I believe there was, yeah, you said you saw a blocked punt.
Hmm.
All right, so that's interesting. It says there was a blocked field goal on here too. I didn't see any of the game, so you would know better than me. So there was a blocked punt. Um,
Oh, I might have missed that.
so yeah, that was an interesting game. Not too much happened there. 49ers moved to 2-0. That was kind of expected. Eagles go down to 1-1. Now your Eagles next week play the Cowboys. And that is what's today's date? The 19th. That is a Monday night game. So next Monday, Eagles versus Cowboys should be a good game.
For that one, I recommend the audience, on top of watching SEVelocity, of course, make sure you watch Undisputed on FS1 on Tuesday because Shannon Sharp roots for the Philadelphia Eagles and Skip Bayless is a diehard Cowboy fan.
Let me tell you, that is going to be a great matchup. Cowboys got their win today. Eagles got their win last week. They're both pretty good teams. Some interesting matchups too. CD Lamb versus the Eagles defense should be interesting. And I want actually let's talk about the Cowboys next because there's something specific that I wanted to talk about. That game just ended. If for those of you who don't know, we're recording Sunday evening, so this is before the Ravens versus Chiefs game tonight, which should be a good game, and Packers and Lions tomorrow. So most of the 4 o'clock games just wrapped up for us. Some quick things I wanted to go over. So the Cowboys beat the Chargers today. Beat Justin Herbert, who's obviously in his second year. He threw a touchdown and 2 interceptions, but he only had 10 incompletions. He played pretty well, just had a couple bad mistakes. Dak Prescott, on the other hand, he threw 1 interception, but he was 23 of 27 passing, played very well. What I wanted to point out though was so Ezekiel Elliott hasn't been playing very well as a running back for the Cowboys, and he's supposed to be one of the top 5 to 6 running backs in the league. He had 16 carries for 70 yards, but his backup had 13 carries for 110 yards. So that's something to keep an eye out on. Um, their backup running back is able to catch passes out of the backfield too, and he seems to be playing better the first 2 weeks. So that might be a shift in who gets more time on the field. Because if he's playing better, I mean, as much as I like Zeke, you got to play him less if it's going to mean that you're going to win more games or be more successful on the field. Your boy CD Lamb had 8 receptions for 90 yards today, so he played very well. Um, and then Keenan Allen for the Chargers had 100 yards receiving. Mike Williams played well, 90 yards receiving. Couple turnovers, nothing too crazy. It was a good game though. Cowboys ended up with the win, 20-17. Good game. Now let's move on to the Bengals versus the Bears. So Joe Burrow, last year's #1 pick, coming off an ACL tear, he threw 3 interceptions for the Bengals today and 2 touchdowns on 11 incompletions, 30 attempts. Um, Now that's fine and all. A rough game from Joe Burrow on some aspects, but they still played pretty well against a tough Bears defense. What I wanted to note though is Andy Dalton got hurt for the Bears, and Andy Dalton was starting as the quarterback for the Bears, and they drafted Justin Fields. So Justin Fields was supposed to wait behind him until he kind of learned everything more. But a lot of people were upset because Justin Fields they feel is a better and more talented player. Now Justin Fields had to play because Andy Dalton was out for the rest of the game. So he threw 13 passes. He completed 6 of them for 60 yards, and he threw an interception. So it was kind of a shaky game, but he also ran for 30 yards on 10 attempts. So it was kind of a lackluster game. Not a lot was going on offensively. More of a defensive battle between the teams. Couple fumbles, couple interceptions. Bears got the win, 20-17. It was an alright game. Hopefully, we'll see Joe Burrow play better next week. Justin Fields, I don't know if Andy Dalton will be healthy next week, but if he's not, they face the Browns, and that's going to be a really tough game. So, not too bad. I'm sorry if I'm talking too much over here. Um,
I really don't have much to contribute
okay.
yet.
Fair enough. Browns versus Texans. Another interesting game. Texans are supposed to be bottom of the barrel. Remember, Deshaun Watson's not playing. Tyrod Taylor's filling in for him. Tyrod Taylor threw 11 passes today, and he completed 10 of them, 125 yards. So he was really accurate, but he got hurt. So Davis Mills comes in, backup rookie quarterback, threw 1 touchdown, 1 interception. A lot of incompletions, though. They end up losing 21-31. Baker Mayfield looked good. Baker Mayfield threw 21 passes today, Sean, and he completed 19 of them. So he only had 2 incompletions the entire game. One of them was an interception, but he played very well. Jarvis Landry got hurt, so that's a big deal. Now Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham are hurt for that team. We'll see where they go from there. I think Odell should be coming back next week, though, which will be a huge contribution to the team.
I have a quick question. Odell, is he at this point, would you say he's fallen off from like all the hype that was around him when he was on the Giants?
Um, so there was a lot of hype around him on the Giants. Obviously, he was labeled a top 5 wide receiver, and then he went to the Browns. I think he requested a trade or wanted out of the Giants. On the Browns, he wasn't getting a lot of attention because Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham, they're both from LSU and are really good friends. They're both great wide receivers too. Odell Beckham's a better wide receiver. However, Jarvis Landry's been there a long time, so he's been kind of established as a trustworthy receiver, so he gets thrown to more.
Mm-hmm.
But Odell Beckham's great too. He makes a lot of big plays, but he hasn't been getting nearly the same amount of stats as he was with the Giants. He's not getting like 100 yards a game when he plays. He's usually getting 60 or 70, or he'll have a 30-yard game and then the next game he'll have 100 yards. He's been very inconsistent. So it's hard
Okay.
to label, but he always looks good when he's on the field. He plays well. It's just he's hard to label because he doesn't get as much attention um, in that regard.
Okay. Okay.
So Browns won. They go to 1-1. They almost beat Kansas City last week. Texans moved to 1-1 as well with the L. Um, Pretty good game, 21-31. Now on to the Rams versus Colts. Former Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz played pretty well. He did get injured for a period because I know Jacob Eason stepped in. Wentz went 20-31 for 250 yards passing, 1 touchdown interception. Stafford 19-30, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 280 passing yards. Both run games had the rushing game on the Rams was split between 2 running backs, Sonny Michel and Darnell Henderson. They combined for 100 rushing yards and a touchdown. Colts, Jonathan Taylor's supposed to be better. He only had 50 rushing yards. Wentz had 40 rushing yards as well. However, receiving wise, Cooper Kupp, Rams wide receiver, had 170 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Michael Pittman for the Colts had 120 yards, no touchdowns. But some pretty big stats there from the receivers. They both played pretty well. Overall, close game. I expected the Rams to win by way more, but Rams come out winning by 3, 27-24. A close one. Now let's talk about the Bills versus Dolphins. So this is another rough game. Bills won 35 nothing over the Dolphins. I know you picked the Dolphins to win, and I didn't mind that. The thing is, a lot of injuries this week. Another quarterback that got hurt. Tua Tagovailoa got hurt.
Yeah.
So the backup Jacoby Brissett, who's supposed to be a pretty good backup, came in, only threw for 150 yards and an interception. Didn't play too well. Josh Allen, who just came off of a massive contract extension for the Bills, 2 touchdown and interception, only threw for 180 yards. Um, Very much a rushing game and defensive game. Not too much happened. It was very quick on offense. Not many big plays outside of just a few big offense plays, and the rest was defense. They scored 35, but Josh Allen really didn't throw for a lot of yards, and I know a lot of it was defensive. So good game for Bills. Dolphins, I'm not sure the seriousness of Tua's injury, but hopefully he's okay. Um, Not much I could really say. I think that the Dolphins' defense was extremely disappointing today because they were supposed to be a great defense, and you gave up 35 points as well. Um, see, we got a few games left. Raiders versus Steelers. Raiders won in a pretty surprising twist. Derek Carr played well. Big Ben didn't play as well. However, TJ Watt, one of the best defensive players in the league, is injured now. Came out of the game, so we'll see if he comes back next week. I'm not sure of the severity of the injury. Rookie running back for the Steelers, Najee Harris, played pretty well. Got a receiving touchdown, ran for 50 yards as well. Second-year player Henry Ruggs had 120 receiving yards for the Raiders. Overall, it was a close game. I got to watch a lot of that game after the Jets decided to not play football. I was impressed with the Raiders. I knew it was going to be a close game, but the Raiders played extremely well. So they move on to 2-0. Steelers are 1-1. Saints versus Panthers. I picked the Saints to win, and for those of you who don't know, we did a spreadsheet with 15 people in it who are picking games every week to see what their record is. Almost everybody picked the Saints. I think 2 or 3 people picked the Panthers, because the Saints just beat Green Bay 38-3. Saints lose 7-26. Jameis Winston did not look good. Um, Sam Darnold, who the Jets decided to trade away last year, Panthers quarterback, threw 2 touchdowns and threw for 300 yards, 1 pick. Played great. Played great against us last week. Fun to see someone do extremely well when he's not on our team. Jameis Winston threw 2 picks, only threw for 110 yards.
The New York curse.
Yeah, absolutely brutal. I also wanted to point out the Panthers' run defense is phenomenal. The Saints have a top 5 running back in Alvin Kamara. He had 8 carries for 5 yards. So he got absolutely destroyed. Didn't get to move anywhere, so they barely ran the ball. They had to throw the ball all game.
Question. What are carries?
Just how many times the running back runs the ball, like he gets the ball and
Oh,
runs it instead of catching it. That's a carry.
okay.
And when it's handed off to him. So
Okay.
So he had 8 carries for 5 yards. So usually you would expect him to get like 100 yards rushing. He had 5 yards rushing. He fell off. Um, Panthers defense played spectacular. They don't have a lot of good players. Shaq Thompson's one of them that's really good. But I think that people are starting to realize how good that Panthers defense might be. So that's something to keep an eye on. Um, Other than that, not much to talk about with that game. I'm not going to try to, you know, talk too much about these things except for the important things. Jaguars versus Broncos. Trevor Lawrence's second game, number 1 overall pick. Came out winning 7-0, threw a nice touchdown, and then it was all downhill from there. Threw for 120 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Not very good. Urban Meyer's been a very weird coach. He came from Ohio State, college coach. It's usually hard for them to transition into the NFL. He seems to be struggling so far with the play calling because this is the second game he's lost, and he should have won the first one. Broncos played pretty well. Teddy Bridgewater threw for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and no fumbles. So no turnovers. It's a big reason why you're going to win. Anytime you have turnovers, it's usually going to end up bad for you. Cortland Sutton had 170 receiving yards. Overall, good game. Rookie running back also had 70 rushing yards. Javonte Williams. That's something to keep an eye on for, especially you fantasy owners. I know that he's splitting time with Melvin Gordon, but he looked really good today. Ran the ball extremely well. So not much to talk about there. Broncos won 23-13. We have two more games to talk about. Cardinals versus Vikings. This one is gonna drive me nuts. I hate talking about it. So, for those of you who don't know, I participate in this fantasy football thing where you pick games each week against the spread. And the Cardinals, all they had to do was win by 3.5. So win by 4 or more. Seems pretty easy, right? You just blew out the Titans last week, one of the best teams in the league, or labeled one of the best teams in the league. No. And then the Vikings lose to the Bangles, right? One of the worst teams in the league. Okay, so that makes sense, right? Cardinals should destroy the Vikings. No. They won by 1 point, barely, and it was because the Vikings kicker missed a field goal at the end of the game that they even won. No defense whatsoever. I think my fantasy team has the Cardinals defense. I'm pretty sure they got negative points, so that's spectacular. Kyler Murray threw for 3 touchdowns and 400 yards. Got to play against him in fantasy. He dropped 35 on me. Phenomenal. Great. Kirk Cousins, who doesn't play well at quarterback in the last few weeks, some would say a year, threw for 3 touchdowns out of nowhere. Dalvin Cook had 130 rushing yards. Rondell Moore has been spectacular for the Cardinals. Rookie wide receiver had 120 receiving yards, ahead of DeAndre Hopkins and AJ Green, even Christian Kirk, who made a big play at the end of the game. It was a very good game. It was very back and forth, high scoring, but it was a good game. Cardinals come out with the win. They're 2-0. They look really good. Vikings move to 0-2. And then lastly, we'll talk about Tom Brady and him going against the Atlanta Falcons, Mr. 28-3. So that was a good game. I know you watched some of it. I want to point out that there was a point in the game where the Falcons were down. I believe it was
like 28-13.
Yeah, let me double check because I think it was a 1 possession game at one point. Let's see, I believe it was 25. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
25-28 going into the fourth quarter. So they were down by 3.
yeah.
But you know what the Falcons are really good at? Blowing everything in the final quarter of the game. So
Yeah.
let me just read the splits on the game. First quarter, Tampa Bay scores 7, Atlanta nothing. Second quarter, Atlanta scores 10, Tampa Bay scores 14. Atlanta third quarter scores 15, and then Tampa Bay had 7. Ready for this? Fourth quarter, Atlanta scores 0, Tampa scores 20. And they lose 25-48. You wonder why. You can't play 4 quarters of football. I don't know if they were just tired or what, but
Yeah, they look like they were getting ready to mount a comeback too.
yeah, it looks like things were gonna be really close for most of the game. Matt
Yeah.
Ryan threw 3 interceptions too. I'm sure you saw that. He threw
Yeah.
for 300 yards too. He had a pretty inconsistent but pretty good game. I know 3 interceptions is usually a glaring issue. You don't want to turn the ball over, but he did play close for most of the game. Doesn't really compare to Tom Brady. This man only had to throw 24 completions, 270 yards, 5 touchdowns. Oh my gosh. Well, like, what are you supposed to do? Not a single turnover. The rookie tight end for the Falcons played well, 70 receiving yards, 5 receptions. Mike Evans played well. He had 2 receiving touchdowns. For the Bucks, Rob Gronkowski had 2 touchdowns. Good for him. He seems to be doing way better this year, at least in attention. He wasn't getting the ball a lot last year when he came out of retirement. This year he's getting the ball a lot. Chris Godwin had a touchdown as well. Tom Brady did lose 1 fumble. I do want to note that. So 1 turnover for the entire game. While the Falcons had a couple turnovers. I also want to point out the Falcons defense isn't usually that bad. They seem to be figuring it out. Last year I called them awful, or last week I called them awful. They seemed to be holding Tom Brady to a reasonable point 3 quarters in, and then they blew up in the fourth quarter. So I don't know if you want to contribute anything to that. It was an interesting game. It was a good game for a while.
I mean, a clutch monster like Tom Brady, is there really anything any defense can do to him?
No.
No, wait, there is. Philadelphia Eagles defense.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and then all my Giants friends are gonna tell me the Giants too. So
But was it their defense that got him, or was it their offense?
a little bit of luck on both sides. Eli, breaking a few tackles and heaving a ball down the field was pretty wild.
In
Um,
other words, looking like the goat only in certain moments.
so I feel like you've seen a lot of the Super Bowls the last few years because
Yeah.
I know it's always a big event. But how does it feel 2 weeks in to watch Tom Brady do what he does in the Super Bowl just consistently week to week? Like just casually
Yeah.
throw a bunch of
Uh,
touchdowns, takes care of the ball, usually wins no problem.
Honestly, I'm looking at it bigger picture. I kind of hate the fact that like I got into football so late, because I'm not gonna really get to appreciate the greatness, cause like that I actually grew up in, but essentially took for granted. As in, mind you, I've watched all of the Super
Yeah,
Bowls and ever since 2000 and what year was it that Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers beat the Cardinals?
they beat the Steelers. I think that was
Steelers.
2009. I'm pretty
Steelers,
sure.
2000. Yeah, that was the first Super Bowl I can recall ever watching, and ever since then I watched all of them. So I did watch the Giants and the Patriots and all of those Super Bowls. But I was just watching it, eating the wings, and just looking at the score, but not really like understanding like what's going on. So and from what I hear, like how football fans talk, it seems that like our generation, we actually kind of grew up in a golden age of football almost in terms of greatness.
Yeah,
Like from the quarterback of, I mean, we have Tom Brady right now. Like I grew up with one who's considered the greatest, and then others such as Drew Brees, who some people, and Peyton Manning, who I've heard people consider could make cases for like top 5 or top 10 all time quarterbacks, whatnot. So um, yeah, I'm feeling like a lot of regret right now.
so it's also a quick fun fact about the first Super Bowl you watched, Packers one.
Yeah.
So that's Aaron Rodgers' only Super Bowl win. It's the only time I think the Packers have made it. With Aaron Rodgers too.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if you got to see it because it was during the season, but the Giants were playing the Eagles, and I remember it so vividly. The Giants were winning, and there was like 10 seconds left, and they had to punt the ball. And Deshaun Jackson was the punt returner for the Eagles. And Tom Coughlin said, "You better punt this ball out of bounds on the off chance that he can return it." And the punter, Matt Dodge, punts it into the center of the field by accident. Deshaun Jackson catches it, or he drops the punt, stumbles, picks it up, weaves through a bunch of people, and he returned it all the way as time expired to win the game. The reason that's significant is the Giants went 10-6 and the Packers went 10-6, and because of that loss, the Packers got the 6th seed to go into the wild card playoffs instead of the Giants, and the Giants would have made the playoffs. So that's how the Packers ended up making the Super Bowl as the worst seed in the NFC, and the Giants would have made it otherwise if they won that game.
Wow, I did not know all of that.
So yeah, that was interesting. Someone showed me the that play again, and it came to my head. But in regards to Tom Brady, like growing up watching football for the longest time, uh, as a Jets fan, you had to play against him twice a year because you play against your own division twice a year. So if he was on the Patriots, um, you would watch each game and you would watch him make these plays, and every time I mean, I absolutely hated him growing up because he's your arch nemesis. He's the rival team. But you would have all these close games and stuff, and you would always think, "Oh man, I have a chance to win. I think the Jets can pull this out." Or you would lose 45-3. I know he beat us 45-3 once. But you would always think, "Oh man, you have this chance." And as every year went by, it was just these dumb comebacks where you just figure it out, or he would keep the game just out of reach for the rest of the game, and it drove me nuts. And then 10, 15 more years go by and you're like, "Oh, it's just him. He does it consistently." Like now I know I was dumb back then. I should have realized that he was just going to do this to me for the rest of my life. But then you kind of grow. It's kind of like LeBron James. You end up growing towards this respect role where it's like now I don't hate him as much. It's like, okay, this is pretty impressive. Um, but it was rough to go through. I mean, the Jets beat the Patriots once in the playoffs, and that was one of the best days of my life. They were 14-2 that year, and the 11-5 Jets beat them.
Actually, I have a question for you. Who do you think was more hated, like unduly, Tom Brady or LeBron James? In America, I'll say, because LeBron is more of a worldwide figure than Tom Brady
That's
is.
so hard. Um,
Oh well, actually, before that, first let me ask: who do you think was more deserving of the hate they received?
I'll say, man.
The reason why the question popped up in my head is because I remember when I asked people why they hate Tom Brady, they'd constantly bring up the whole deflating of football, saying because
So
he cheats for his wins.
I'm gonna say LeBron, and I think it's more because of the move to Miami, and like looking back on it now, it's not as a big deal, but in hindsight, that was a big deal to everyone. He moved to Miami, right? Um,
Hmm.
so that was already making him a little bit more hated. He was the number one pick. Keep in mind, Tom Brady was drafted in the sixth round out of 7 rounds. He was drafted with the
Oh
199th pick, and the only reason he
wow!
got any playing time was the starting quarterback got a season-ending injury in his knee. I'm pretty sure, or he had an injury and he had to come out of the game, and then Tom Brady went in and never looked back, and he never lost a starting job because he just
Oh
so
wow! He started from the bottom and went to the top.
yeah.
That's
So
incredible.
he came from the bench, sixth round pick, filled in for the starter who got hurt, and then he never lost the starting spot because he did really well.
So in other words, he did what Nick Foles did, but better.
Yeah, and because he was drafted in 1998, so our the year we were born.
Wow!
So
Oh yeah!
I don't know if it was
Completely.
the year after or the year of when Drew Bledsoe got hurt, and then he took his spot to play and filled in and played really well. And ironically, the worst part is the Jets player is the one who hurt the starting quarterback, so that really made Tom Brady emerge, and then the rest is history. So with Deflategate though, that it was a one-time thing, and I don't. I get that it's called cheating. It should be cheating because you're deflating footballs. He had someone else do it, and it was to get a better grip on the football. But I don't think it's as serious as everyone makes it out to be. Because not only does he get that advantage, the other quarterback's going to get that advantage most of the time too. So when the football is deflated, it's deflated for everyone. It makes an easier grip for him if it's raining and everything. That was the big deal. Obviously, I'm against it because it is a form of cheating, but I think it was a bit overblown because it was one game, and I don't think it was as severe as everyone made it out to be. Um, and at the time, I was livid about it. I mean, as a Jets fan, he was Patriots too. I was absolutely livid about it. So I guess LeBron starting from the top to begin with kind of makes him a little bit more hated. But also at the same time, when Tom Brady goes and gets 6 or 7 rings, it's easier for them to want to bring him down. Everyone hates him more too. But
Yeah.
it's a tough conversation. I think it can go either way. And two of the things that I like, or one of the things I like about both of them is that you see him yelling at their teammates, and everyone freaks out. They're like, "See, why would you ever want to play for him? He's so nasty." Like you see with J.R. Smith, where LeBron's going like that, or you see Tom Brady flipping out on the coach on the sideline. What people don't understand is that's not them, being extremely rude or mean to someone. It's them wanting to win. It's just how competitive they are. They hate losing, and there's a reason that they're talking and they're yelling about it because they care. So I think
Yeah.
I like seeing how much they both care about their respective sports.
And well, I can't speak on Brady. You're the one who can. But in terms of the LeBron and J.R. Smith situation, if anyone has an ounce of knowledge of basketball, you'd
Yeah,
understand how
I would have been livid
justified
too.
that was. Right in the NBA Finals.
Yeah,
Yes, of
biggest
course.
stage.
Yeah, I forgot NBA player didn't know what the score was, but anyway, yeah, that's really interesting. But I still can't believe Tom Brady was drafted in 1998, the year we were born. Like,
Yeah.
but just because they're contemporaries, sometimes I sit back and forget that Brady is somewhat significantly older than LeBron.
And so I also found this out today. Bill Belichick has
Hmm.
coached in the NFL for 45 years straight.
Wow.
Not always a head coach. I think he's only been a head coach for 23 years. 23 or 24 years. The other thing that's really unfortunate about that is Bill Belichick, I'm not sure if I told you this, signed with the Jets to be their coach. So he was originally going to be the Jets head coach. And then 4 days into his time with the Jets, he wrote his resignation on a napkin and said he didn't want to coach there. And then after he resigned, a couple days later, he signed with the Patriots and became the Patriots coach.
Now that explains a lot. Is that why you hate the Patriots so much?
It's definitely a contributor. Um,
Until the truth comes out.
so
The new that not typical New York. Your
one of the
favorite
best
team in
coach one of the
your
best
favorite
coaches
team in
ever
America.
comes to us and then he leaves 4 days later. Listen, I wouldn't be as mad if he just didn't come to the Jets at all. If he just signed with the Patriots. But no, he has to come over here, resign 4 days later, and then become the coach of the Patriots.
Kind of like LeBron, going to a meeting with the Knicks and then airing on the decision that I'm choosing Miami instead.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, um the Patriots were an awful team before Bill Belichick got there. They weren't really good ever. They didn't have a lot of good seasons, and the Jets were considered better. And then now, if you go to their all-time record, Jets versus Patriots, I think the Patriots are like a bunch of games ahead now. The Patriots have won 11, all 11 of the last. They're 11-0 in the last 11 games against the Jets that they've played. So the Jets haven't won
Mhm.
them against the Patriots in a while. But yeah,
Hey, you have a chance now that he's not a Brady's not there.
yeah, well, apparently we're gonna have a rookie that's probably gonna be nuts for the next 20 years going against us, so that's cool. Hopefully we picked the right rookie. Didn't look like it today. I think that's all I got to talk about for football. This is a good week. Ravens versus Chiefs tonight. Cannot wait. Patrick Mahomes is probably gonna destroy Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. No disrespect to them, they're just talent-wise way less. Lamar
Hey,
Jackson's alone.
I'm personally not rooting for anyone. I just want to see
A good
Patrick
game.
Mahomes. I want to see Mahomes launch some cannons on the field, and I want to see Lamar run like you saying on the on the
You
track.
watching it tonight?
Yeah, oh, I most definitely am.
This is gonna be a great
That
game.
believe it or not, that's actually the matchup. These are the matchup that I've been looking forward to all year long. I wanted to see those two. I want to see Mahomes up against Brady again. And what else? I think I also want to see Mahomes up against Aaron Rodgers.
That would be a good one. I want to point out there is one really good game next week. The Rams are supposed to be the number one defense in the league, and they also got a good quarterback now, and they play against Tom Brady next week. So that's supposed to be a great game.
Mhm.
Um, other than that, I'm gonna look at Tom Brady's schedule real quick because I want to see if there's any games of noteworthy. Faces the Patriots in New England after this upcoming week, so week 4. So he's gonna be facing Bill Belichick. I think that's the first time that they faced off since he left. I'm not 100% certain. Um, yeah, the Jets get to face Tom Brady. I'm not looking forward to that week. Nothing else of note. Maybe Bills versus Bucks, but nothing. Aaron Rodgers. Well, let's hope Aaron Rodgers starts playing football. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't know if he's got any good matchups that you would want to see. Oh, Aaron Rodgers versus Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs, November 7th. Be there.
I'll
Should be
be
a good game.
watching that.
Um, all right. So let's talk some basketball.
Alrighty, finally, I'm back in my element. I'll introduce a first topic. Um, this one is something I've been pondering. I'm sure everyone has to some degree. What will winning a championship with the Los Angeles Lakers do for the overall legacy of Carmelo Anthony?
I think.
And
I'm
no,
sorry.
go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead. You got it.
Okay. So I think that this is a great question, first off, but I also think that if we're going to evaluate that, we have to evaluate it for a few of the guys, like Dwight Howard as well. Would be
He already has his ring.
I know, but like in general, like Dwight
Okay.
Howard, Russell Westbrook, like what this ring
Oh,
specifically will mean to them in value
yeah,
if they win.
yeah,
Um, Now I think that Carmelo. It really depends on Carmelo's role going into the season. He's been kind of labeled as a starter, but no one truly knows how much he's going to play. And since they have such a deep rotation, is he going to be a starter who gets 20 minutes, or is he going to be a starter who gets 30 to 40 minutes? Like, what kind of starter is he going to be? Or if he comes off the bench, is he going to get 10 minutes, or is he going to get 25 minutes? Because I think that's another big important factor into evaluating this. If Carmelo Anthony comes out and let's say the Lakers win the finals, and he averages 15 points a game the entire season, and he's a starter who gets 30 to 35 minutes, then I'm going to say that the ring's pretty noteworthy to him. It's not like him winning a ring in his prime, but it's still going to at
yeah,
least it's going to have some sentiment to it. But if it's one of those deals where he's coming off the bench, he's getting like 5 to 10 a game, and he's getting like 15 to 20 minutes, I don't think it's something that should be really that noteworthy in his career.
yeah,
Um, I would love to see. I know this won't happen. I would love to see a situation where Carmelo Anthony turns into Knicks Carmelo Anthony in the NBA Finals, and not necessarily moves around a lot, but just shoots lights out, kind of like Klay Thompson had that one game,
mm,
but just has a few games similar to that, and just scores really well in the finals because it's the first time being there. That would be really nice
yeah,
to see, but and then him come out of it with the Finals MVP somehow. But I know that won't happen. If I had to give you a likeliness for who I think would win the Finals MVP, I think number one would probably be AD, and then two would be LeBron, and then three would be Russell Westbrook. And then I think it would go to a steep drop off, but probably Carmelo fourth. Um, it would be between Carmelo and Malik Monk because I don't know how much Malik Monk's going to play. I'm not saying he would ever win Finals MVP, but I would say Carmelo and Malik Monk are like the fourth most important player on that team, depending on how much they utilize them. Because Malik Monk's also young, so he can play 45 minutes if he needs to.
yeah. But I think that I feel like Melo's gonna be the better one on the team.
I agree. I think he's going to average. I do think he's going to average 15 a game. Um,
I really, now that you start bringing up roster, I was listening to like some of the sports news this week. It's interesting. Like they were saying that one of the options that the Lakers are playing with is having AD start at center and have LeBron start at power forward.
I noticed that, and I actually really like that. I don't necessarily love AD at center, but now that you got rid of Marcus Gasol, I don't think. Well, here's the thing. So you're gonna have LeBron start, right? Here you have
Yeah.
LeBron, AD, and Russell Westbrook. Those guys are guaranteed starters, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
have a point guard, small forward slash power forward, and then I guess a center slash power forward.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on who you want in that starting lineup around them. I guess
Yeah.
personally, you would want, I think Carmelo. I'm assuming start,
Yeah.
and then I think out of terms of chemistry, maybe Horton Tucker. I'm not certain.
Yeah.
Carmelo
I
would probably
agree.
be small forward, then shooting guard would be Horton Tucker. Um, or even I guess Malik Monk too could start at shooting guard. It's one of those two though, without a doubt.
I personally don't have a bigger problem with LeBron playing power forward than I have with AD playing center.
I I think he's big
I just,
enough. It's just a lot of energy to take out on guarding a big man.
yeah,
It's just a lot of physical energy that's not necessary for him on defense.
yeah. And my thing is too with LeBron, like I just think just playing on the wing is just the perfect spot for him because the wing, what does it demand? Versatility, and that's what LeBron essentially is. Plus, LeBron plays out on the perimeter a lot, like running the offense, like playmaking wise. So it really doesn't make much sense to me to have to put him in the post. I mean, I think then again, I heard Shannon Sharp say it. They might be playing with what people like to call positionless basketball. They're just just filling in a spot
Yeah,
like who's starting at power forward, but in reality, they're gonna kind of scramble
shift.
like
Yeah.
how they play actually on the floor.
Do you who if you took out? Well, here's the thing. If I think if you have DeAndre Jordan
Mm,
and Dwight Howard, you're
mhm.
wasting their talent. No matter how old they are, they're still talented centers. You're
Yeah,
wasting their talent by having both of them come off the bench because that means
yeah.
that you're probably combining both of their times for 30 minutes total between two of them, and I don't think that's really fair.
Yeah,
Um,
that's ridiculous to me. I think you should start one of them. Like I think you should start.
I think
I'm gonna
Dwight's
say you should.
better
I was
personally,
gonna say actually start D. Yeah, I think Dwight's better, but
but
I
he's
think
better off
start
the bench. I
DeAndre.
agree. I agree.
Yeah, I think start DeAndre, especially because DeAndre is like he's a bit younger than Dwight.
The
I
thing
think
is,
maybe like 3 years,
so
4 years.
then you'd have AD slide to power forward, then small forward be
Mm,
LeBron, and then
yeah,
you would have Carmelo coming off the bench. So I guess them playing Carmelo or LeBron at power forward is their way of saying that they want Carmelo to start. Because you wouldn't have, there's no other small forward on the team that would fill that spot. You're not putting Kent Bazemore at small forward as your starter.
yeah.
Um, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Well, I don't
This,
think it's the worst thing in the world if you do DeAndre Jordan at center, AD
mm,
at power forward, Carmelo at small forward, and LeBron labeled as a shooting guard. He doesn't necessarily have to be the shooting guard role, but
yeah,
as the other alternative ball carrier between Russell Westbrook, because I don't think Carmelo should get that role, but Carmelo
yeah,
can be more of the shooting guard on offense, but not ball wise, like dribbling.
yeah,
Um, and that would be a big lineup too. That's going to be hard to guard.
yeah.
But I feel like maybe they just feel like they don't have the speed or the stamina to guard that small players. Um, it's weird.
Another thing like why I don't like AD now at center. It has nothing to do with like AD's game. Like we seen it in New Orleans when AD's played center, like he's just dominated and has looked like the best center. Like
Yeah,
when he's done it. The problem is with him, and it's always been this issues in New Orleans. If the amount of physicality that happened at center and how injury prone AD is, because like we saw what happened this year, AD played more center and he got hurt. But while JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard were there on the Lakers, AD were playing like full time power forward. He didn't have to go down low and crash the glass as much, so he wasn't getting knocked around as much as he would in the past. He could focus more on scoring and defense and just
yeah.
help them with the rebound if need be. So I think they should do the same thing like now that they have DeAndre Jordan because he's a similar type of player to JaVale McGee, a rim protector, and but he's a better rebounder. So Anthony Davis will have his two bodyguards down there.
I the biggest concern I have is that the my biggest concern is that the Lakers are going to start playing basketball like the Warriors. They're gonna play a shooting game like where they're going to be looking at shooting jump shots more than anything. When you have so many physical guys down low, like
I don't think that's gonna happen. I think the Lakers themselves know that that overall they can't shoot. I mean, the shooters are gonna be Melo and Malik Monk.
but like my point is, I'm worried that they're going to play small ball and they're going to do these small lineups instead of utilizing having LeBron at small forward because that's a massive small forward, and then running AD at power forward and then another center. Like similar to um, the Bucks is a really good example. Like you have
Mm,
Middleton, Giannis, and then Brooke Lopez or Bobby Portis, which was this phenomenal combo where you were able to severely out rebound most of the time, depending on whoever you were facing. So now I'm worried that instead of doing that, you're going to be focusing on LeBron sliding down the power forward. Carmelo's probably not going to crash boards much as
mm.
a small forward. He's going to be a shooting small forward more than anything. And then you're going to have Russ who might crash the boards a little bit, and then your shooting guard's most likely not going to touch the boards at all. So I feel like you could take advantage with your size of the matchups, but it could be
But
game to game too.
yeah, yeah, because you got to consider this like in their title run when the Lakers played the Miami Heat, Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, that was the least minutes they got in the whole playoffs. Like, they got minimal minutes. Like,
Yeah,
if any, AD played a lot of center because they were trying to play a more fast paced lineup to match the Heat. Like,
yeah,
those young kids scared to
100%.
like run the fast paced game with them. So, so I think that's probably the idea there. Because I mean, well, if you do have Melo out there, he's going to be the designated shooter. But we know having like Russell Westbrook, LeBron, and Anthony Davis, like that's going to be a triple threat on the fast breaks.
I think the starting lineup should shift every game, like depending on and I think that they have a nice rotation, a big enough rotation too, where a lot of these guys are going to be able to low key get load management without it being a problem because they have so many depth players where they could still win games. Um,
But do you think shifting the line, like constantly shifting the lineup, could that potentially be detrimental to like some of the role players? So
No, I think that could give the role players the time that they need on the court. Like if you have a game where you start Malik Monk and then the next game you start Horton Tucker and then you have another game where you're starting Kendrick Nunn, I think those guys are going to be able to get enough experience where they're either going to get 10 minutes one game or they're going to get 25 minutes another game, so they'll still have enough experience to play a good game and also not be ice cold and not play at all. Um,
okay,
when we play, for example, if you're playing the Suns for like a starting lineup, I feel like having DeAndre Jordan or Dwight Howard start would be awesome to have.
yeah,
Guard DeAndre Eaton, but then you have Anthony Davis on Jay Crowder. Like that's
yeah,
unbelievable. And then you have LeBron or Carmelo on Miles Bridges, and then you have Booker and Chris Paul between LeBron. I would personally I would put LeBron on Booker and then Melo on Bridges, just because I don't think Melo could keep up with Booker. I think LeBron could.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and then you would have Russ on Chris Paul, and that would be a great matchup for you. You don't really have much to worry about. Um,
yeah,
I think it just goes from team to team what lineups you would need. Which, by
yeah.
the way, the first game of the year is the Nets versus the Lakers.
It's the Nets and Lakers.
I don't know if it's
No, no,
it. it
no. I think that's a Christmas.
Wait,
Oh,
when does the official season start? Do you know?
October 19th. I have the NBA app
So
right
it's
now. Yeah,
preseason, October
yeah,
3rd, Nets versus Lakers.
yeah, yeah. Opening night this season is Nets versus Bucks, and then Warriors versus Lakers.
Do we know if Clay's going to be healthy for that or no?
I don't know for sure. I
I feel like
believe
he's going to
so.
be slightly late. We'll see. I,
Yeah.
I hope he's there. The Warriors need some help though. Maybe they can get some um, San Bimmons.
Yeah. Ben, give us Steph.
Yeah, they'll give you Andrew Wiggins. Don't worry about
Oh my God.
it. um,
Anyway, speaking of the Warriors, so Evan brought up a very interesting topic that I didn't consider. This is going to make the Western Conference playoff really interesting. Upon the return of Jamal Murray and Klay Thompson, we might see an interesting battle in the West, a seeding between the Golden State Warriors and the Denver Nuggets.
I here's the thing I'm torn about. I feel like the Utah Jazz are going to have a very similar season to last season, where they might crash and burn in the playoffs, but they might be the regular season Warriors and they get some of the most wins.
Hmm.
I think the Lakers are going to be at the top no matter what. So I feel like the Jazz might get the second spot, but but
Hmm.
but for the third spot, I have no idea. Well, I guess let's broaden this a bit. Third seed, or do you think that the Suns are ahead of the Nuggets and Warriors, or do you think that they're about the same, fully healthy?
Mm. I'm going to put them ahead just because, like, it's regular season.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so I'll give them third.
all right, so fourth seed, this is the big competition, and the best
Yeah.
part is no matter who if they were both neck and neck, they would face each other in the first round of the playoffs, so it should be interesting. So let's talk about who we think would get the higher seed, and then if they were in a playoff series, who would win the series. Um, I'll
I'm gonna say I think Denver will get the higher seed
I agree. I think
because
that. Go ahead.
Jamal Murray coming back from injury. Well, he's younger than Clay, so his recovery is gonna be a better. Clay's also missed way more time than Jamal would have missed as well. And on top of that, the pieces around them. Yeah, in a way, obviously they missed Jamal Murray in the playoffs, but to me, they didn't, in a way, miss him too much because we saw how well Michael Porter Jr. like he stepped up in Jamal Murray's absence, and if he maintains that level of play, and then Jamal Murray coming back, and it just adds to it, like I think that they're going to be a pretty incredible offensive force out there in the league.
By the way, as predicted, the Nuggets signed Aaron Gordon to a contract extension. Um, $90 million 4 years. So that's another key starter that they had, or even six man if they shift him to six man. I agree with you. I think the Nuggets are going to hold the higher seed at the end of the year, and that's not a knock towards the Warriors. It's just they've been spent a very long time apart. Like they have
Yeah,
not played together in a long time. It's been like 2 years, and we don't know what to expect. Clay Thompson has also never played with James Wiseman before. He's never. I don't think he's played with Andrew Wiggins before.
yeah,
Um, so it's only going to be Steph and Draymond that he's used to. I think it's going to just be a whole different format, and there's a bunch of role players that are different too. Um,
yeah.
in terms of Denver, there's not much changing, and like you said, Jamal Murray hasn't been gone that long. Like when he's healthy. Oh, that's the other thing though. Jamal Murray did get hurt late in the season, so is he going to be out for the first few months of this season? Um,
Oh, that's a good question. I don't even remember exactly like what the timetable was on his injury.
if Jamal Murray's he tore his Achilles, so 8 to 9 months, most likely.
Okay.
But that's perfect scenario. If Jamal Murray is healthy for the entire season, I would say the Nuggets are going to have a better record because they've just been more consistent. The chemistry's there too. They don't really have much to worry about. They know what it's like to play with Jamal Murray. Um, and like I said, it's not a knock towards Clay. I just think that things are going to be a bit rusty early on. They'll figure it out later on, and they'll do well potentially in the playoffs. It's just you have to get there first, and you have to build that chemistry up. So that might be taking a few losses. And I think that we're also in a new era of the league where I don't think it's the Warriors are necessarily king with the threes and everything. Now I think you're starting to find a league that is focused on threes, but also very much focused on the rebounding aspect of it. And I don't think, no disrespect to Draymond, but he's getting pretty old, and James Wiseman has been. I won't say injury prone because he was a rookie last year, but he needs to be on the floor. And if he's not on the floor, they don't really have any depth at center. So I don't potentially like their setup. It's going to be a lot of Steph and Clay carrying again. And you got to expect at least 15 to 20 from Wiggins to win these games too. Like Wiggins has to contribute.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that they're going to have to go through a lot of building, and I think it's similar to the Heat in their first year back. I think it's going to be a lot of that where they're still going to have to re-gel together. I know it's different because that was a whole new team completely, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of gelling that has to get done um,
Yeah.
to build up to that. I'm also interested to see how they match up against the Jazz. Like the Jazz have a lot of depth, and the Warriors don't necessarily have that depth. They're probably a better team in talent from the starters between Steph and Clay versus just Donovan Mitchell and like Rudy Gobert. But I feel like with the Jazz's depth, I feel like they wouldn't match up well.
Now, I see a second question now. After the Warriors match versus the Nuggets in a playoff series, I'm going to say this. If both sides are fully healthy, and this is going to be the X factor, once again, it's going to be Jamal Murray. If
I
we see
100% agree with you.
if we see that Jamal Murray that was up against Donovan Mitchell and
Uh,
against Kawhi and PG, that Jamal Murray, and then with Jokic just being consistent,
it's over.
whether he's backing him up or taking the charge, that yeah, they're gonna beat the Warriors because here's the thing. I don't think people ever notice it with the Warriors, and me personally, as a former Warriors hater, I count my blessings. I never witnessed it. Can you ever recall a time, Evan, during their great dynasty run, where both Steph and Clay have historic shooting nights on the same night?
Not that I can recall. No,
It's
one of
it's
them's usually
always
always
separately.
off.
Yeah, it's one or the other. That's how it's always been. You see, but I'm just saying. Let's say hypothetically they do have like their historic shooting nights. I if that will definitely mean that Jamal Murray has to play the way we saw him um perform in the bubble. And between him and Jokic, I think that what they would contribute would be a more well-rounded elevated level of play than Steph and Clay would contribute. Like obviously those two is going to be primarily like points, but as for Jokic and Jamal Murray, it wasn't just a point. Like obviously we know what Jokic is as a passer, but when Jamal Murray was going on those big huge scoring sprees, he would people like forgetting his facilitating also like improved in those moments as well. He was making some great passes and plays,
Um,
and yeah, and both of them they can create do stuff on their own.
so I think if you like look at their starting lineup, um, you have what do you have? You have Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, and Wiseman. Nuggets, I believe it is Jamal Murray.
Hmm.
Uh, I want to say Will Barton plays shooting guard.
Yeah,
I
I think
as a
so.
starter, and then
Mm.
you have Michael
Michael Porter.
Porter, and then you have
Yeah.
Aaron Gordon, and then you have Jokic. Obviously, I'm taking Jokic over Wiseman. I
Yeah.
think that's a given. Power forward, Draymond versus Aaron Gordon. I think that you could probably give a slight edge to Draymond still, but Aaron Gordon is a phenomenal player at guarding guards. Like he can come up and guard any guard he wants at his height,
Mm.
which is incredible.
He's a
Um,
better scorer than Draymond.
he's better scorer, and let's be honest, he's younger, so he's going to have a higher motor, more energy, longer minutes.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, now, small forward, I personally think Michael Porter is better than Andrew Wiggins. Uh,
You don't even have to ask me.
yeah. So, and then Will Barton obviously isn't as good as Clay, and then you have Jamal Murray versus Steph.
Steph. Obviously, we know Steph is better, but we also know if Jamal Murray is on,
Right.
we know Steph Curry cannot guard Jamal Murray.
I just think small forward, power forward, and center is a huge disadvantage for the Warriors. Draymond's like the
Yeah.
only one that kind of sticks out there, unless Wiseman steps up really big this year, like kind of DeAndre Ayton-esque. Um,
Hmm.
now, what's curious to me is who do you think would guard Jamal Murray?
Clay.
I agree. I figured
That's
you'd say the
that's how
same.
it's always been.
And
He
then Steph
always
will,
Clay guard guards.
guard Will Barton probably.
Yeah, definitely.
So, oh man, Austin Rivers is the technical only shooting guard on the team. Will Barton's a small forward. Um, well, technical starter, potential starter.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I don't. I would say I think the Nuggets would win in a series. If everyone's fully healthy, and it's so hard to evaluate Jamal Murray because it's it's
you
either
don't
15
saw it
points
yet.
or 50. It's
The,
literally no in between.
the thing is that and the whole 15-point thing, that was the season before the bubble.
Yeah,
So that was in the past. But ever since we saw bubble Jamal Murray, we haven't gotten to see him in the playoffs again to really claim whether that's going to be him moving forward.
yeah. Um, yeah. I'll go Nuggets for now. I need to see how Clay plays though, and how long it
Mhm.
takes for Jamal to recover. I'm actually gonna look that up real quick. Jamal Murray recovery before we hop off the air here, because I know we're encroaching on the hour. Um, all right, let's see.
I also think we also got to point out the Warriors, Steph and Clay, they never ever went up against a team with an elite center like Jokic. So that's going to be a type of matchup. That's, if anything, the center position is the one position, even with KD there, that was the one position they could have all teams could have always exploited if there were more talented centers around the league, but they just never had to deal with it. But now more than ever, it's gonna be like an easy position for the Nuggets to exploit because the Warriors offense isn't what it was. So I think Jokic and Jamal Murray are going to be, I mean, factors. Jokic is going to be the factor in terms of like position matchups. Jamal Murray is going to be the factor in terms of consistency of play.
So Jamal Murray had a video in the middle of August of him hanging on the rim, but right now he's technically in the light shooting and light running phase in the middle of August. So I would say, if not October, I would say he's back the latest December. But he should be back before the All Star break or anything. So I would say he's back by November. If everything I'm being told is accurate, November the latest.
Hopefully.
I hope so too.
Mm.
Um, there's no one else that had any dramatic injury, right? That we're going to be seeing return. Well, like I know, like LeBron and AD were injured at one point, but like I'm saying, season ending.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess the only other person would be Victor Oladipo, since now he had the whole offseason to rest, see how he's gonna fit in the Heat rotation.
I think he's going to do better than a lot of people have given him credit for.
Yeah.
We'll see though. Oh,
Mhm.
um, actually, I just found a bunch of valuable information. So this is all the NBA players. I'll go through this really quickly. All right. So this is all the NBA injuries and their returns. Well, at least I'll read all the notable ones. Atlanta Hawks. DeAndre Hunter is probable for the start of the season. He had a knee injury. Jaylen Brown, wrist, probable for the start of the season. Kyrie Irving, ankle, probable for the start of the season. Um, Kobe White, questionable for the start of the season for Chicago. Jamal Murray, expected to be out until at least January 1st. So, we'll see.
Okay.
Klay Thompson, expected to be out until at least Christmas. Um,
All right.
James Wiseman, probable for the start of the season. So he'll be back. John Wall, expected to be out until Halloween or October 31st. That's also interesting. Quick thing. They're working out a trade to get rid of him. To get him on a better team. Um, T.J. Warren expected to be out until November 1st. Miles Turner probable for the start of the season. Kawhi Leonard expected to be out until at least February 1st because he supposedly tore his ACL. No one's ever confirmed that still.
They
Uh,
they still haven't confirmed.
I
Wow.
don't think I've heard anything about it. Serge Ibaka probable for the start of the season. Zubac probable for the start of the season. Jarrett Culver probable for the start of the season. Victor Oladipo out until December 1st, most likely. DiVincenzo out, probable for the start of the season. Mitchell Robinson probable for the start of the season. Shea Giglius probable for the start of the season. Markel Fultz expected to be out until December 1st. Jonathan Isaac supposed to be ready for the start of the season. Chris Paul probable for the starting season. Um, Dario Saric supposed to be out until April 1st. I know he tore something, I'm pretty sure, in the finals. Zach Collins expected to be out until at least December 31st. Pascal Siakam supposed to be out until November 1st, and that is it. So,
Okay.
if you
So,
guys, Christmas
so
time, everyone should be fully healthy.
hey, Christmas miracles, Christmas magic.
So if Clay's not supposed to be back till on Christmas, it'd be wild if he returns on the Christmas game, whichever team he plays.
Yeah. Are the Warriors playing Christmas? Let me
I feel
see.
like the Warriors have to play Christmas, right? Everyone wants to see Steph on Christmas. Or maybe they gave him
Oh
the year
yeah.
off. They are.
Yeah. Warriors are playing the Suns.
I feel bad for any guys that have to play on Christmas. I feel like you get punished for being a good player because then you're forced to play on Christmas.
At LeBron James.
Yeah, I mean him and Steph. I'm pretty sure have played the last 3 or 4 Christmases.
3 or 4.
Well,
The
more,
the list goes
more.
longer. The list goes
Yeah,
longer for LeBron.
I know Carmelo. Even when Carmelo was on the Knicks, I'm pretty sure he played Christmas a lot
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
It's
I'm just
unfortunate.
saying LeBron's basically played on Christmas his whole
I
career.
know. I feel bad, man. Can't have a Christmas. If he probably celebrates Christmas with his family on the 26th.
Yeah, or the 24th.
Yeah.
These are the Christmas Day games. That's the Hawks versus Knicks,
Hawks,
Celtics versus Bucks,
Bucks.
Warriors versus Suns.
Depends on who plays. I'll say Suns.
Not a big one. Nets versus Lakers.
Nets, but
Uh,
they'll meet
Ma-
each other again.
Mavericks versus Jazz.
Jazz.
I'm going with Mavs on that. I feel like we're going to see some Luca magic. But as for the Nets versus Lakers, I know this is early, but I'm saying it from now. Obviously, if they're legit real injuries, I mean, I'm going to be disappointed, but I'm not going to scold anyone. But this is primarily at you, Kyrie Irving. And I know you're probably not watching SEVelocity yet, but still, I do not want to see any crap about sitting out games, low management, religion, or I'm an artist, or my mind is way above everyone else's. Oh, I'm so philosophic. The earth is none of that nonsense.
It's
Show up to work on Christmas for
the
God's sake.
the
Believe in
SpongeBob voice.
Harden.
The SpongeBob voice. I don't feel like it.
KD and Harden, I trust you guys. I trust you to play if you're able to. But
Yeah.
please get your mans.
Yeah. Hopefully Kyrie plays. I mean, regardless of all that stuff, he's so fun to watch when he plays.
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
to see it. I don't think we got anything else to talk about today.
No, that'll be all.
All right. Without further ado, I hope everyone has a great rest of their week. Enjoy the Ravens versus Chiefs game tonight. You're probably not watching this till the next morning or afternoon anyway, so hope it was a good game. Um, Lions versus Packers tomorrow. Hope to God Aaron Rodgers plays like Aaron Rodgers. We'll see. Other than that, though, hope you guys have a good week. Some Thursday night football too. Um, Basketball coming up in the next month or so. Some exciting stuff happening. We will catch you all next weekend with a potential guest. We will have to wait and see. Um, have a good night.